All right, thanks for joining a special edition of the Frank Figliuzzi Show on Lincoln Square. Let's summarize, if we can, a myriad of allegations, mostly unsubstantiated, that have been thrown at us tonight. A lot of this is stale bread, folks. We've seen this before, and it's been debunked and discounted before. So now we're going to see if anyone stands up and respects what happened here tonight. Already, we have Senator John Ossoff of Georgia calling Trump a sore loser. We did see tonight a sore loser revisiting his old losses, licking his wounds, and trying to recoup that loss in the face of what is daunting poll numbers that makes him and his party look like a loser for the upcoming midterms. All right, for those who just couldn't take it, let me go ahead and summarize. And I know a number of you have said, hey, Frank, thanks for watching, so we don't have to. Let's go through it quickly, because it's all over the map tonight, what he's throwing out here. And the basic thing tonight is that he's planted the seeds for future severe action. This is my opinion of where this is going. He certainly has been hinting at it for quite some time, and he did so tonight. And he's already telling his base, we can't trust the results of the election. We know that's a dangerous thing to say, because we remember the insurrection of January 6th. You got a graphic now up on the screen that says Republicans have been scared shitless about this speech tonight. There's a lot of inside baseball reporting that even within the White House, they're concerned about, that there's no there, that what he said tonight isn't going to sound like it's legit or resonate with people. It's not resonating with me. It's just causing more questions. So let me run through this for you real quickly. He opened by saying he had urgent action for the country to take. His theme was no trust, no greatness. In other words, if we don't trust the election process, America can no longer be great. I have my own opinion on that we cannot be great as long as we don't trust our president. And that is where we are even more so tonight. He called these shocking vulnerabilities in election infrastructure that was open to hacking and foreign interference. If you heard me talking to Dean Obadella yesterday, I told you to listen carefully for the word foreign, and we got it tonight in droves, mostly aimed at China. So he told us tonight that he believes the intelligence community has handed him evidence that he's declassifying and putting up on a site for us to see. Don't get me started on declassifying classified intelligence, folks. I don't like that. But nonetheless, apparently we can go to whitehouse.gov, and we're going to get these declassified documents, of which there are perhaps thousands of documents. Let me run through this real quickly. Intel chiefs have briefed him that they found the following. Number one, in the 2020 cycle, the election cycle, the People's Republic of China carried out the largest, get this, folks, the largest compromise of election records in history. Now, let me put a pin in this right there, because I want to show you some graphics and a video clip that detail that in the 2020 cycle, and then a report issued in 2021, the U.S. intelligence community actually debunked the notion that the PRC interfered in any way, any significant way at all. In fact, there was sensitive intelligence indicating that the Chinese government had decided to not go forward with any large-scale plans to impact our election. That is, it essentially wasn't cost-effective for them. The business of getting Trump out or Trump in versus someone else didn't really make a difference to them. That's the inside intelligence scoop. You can see the report here contradicting claims by Trump and his team on China election interference. Yet tonight, we heard it back. He's claiming tonight now they've discovered that there's been a huge cover-up, folks, a huge cover-up. And get this, even within his own, at the time, within his own U.S. intelligence leadership, he's claiming they kept it even from him, that there was this cover-up. If this isn't making any sense to you, you're normal. You are normal. 220 million voter files were allegedly accessed by the People's Republic of China. All right, my opinion on that. Maybe the question that we always ask in the intelligence community is, so what? Did they do anything with it? Even if it's true, and by the way, this is the first time I'm hearing of 220 million voter records accessed by the PRC. Even if it's true, what did they do with it, and did it make a difference? I'm here to tell you that every single day in the United States, the People's Republic of China hacks us, accesses us, waves hello inside our infrastructure all the time. And by the way, we do it too. The question is, so what? What difference did it make? We'll need to ask that question. Number two, Trump claims the deep state, that's his phrase, not mine, within the intelligence community worked to cover up and downplay Chinese meddling, even from him and from other presidents. I guess the entire intelligence community is working for China at this point. He says tens of millions of voters' data in 18 states. He did not name most of those states, but they're gonna tell those states, like starting tomorrow. In those states, tens of millions of voters' data has been hacked or was hacked, and this was not disclosed to him or to Congress. If nothing else, takeaway tonight, folks, this is an abysmal performance by a president who doesn't know what's going on within his own intelligence community, and they're not briefing him, right? Well, there's only a couple of possibilities here. One, this didn't happen. Two, the entire intelligence community under Trump, including his own leaders, were keeping things from him. Okay. The next, he says, a CIA report says in mid-2018, China focused on undermining the U.S. president. Now this, by the way, this to me sounds very typical of Chinese intelligence service methodology. He's saying the PRC sought to influence every day, folks. They got next to U.S. companies and tried to talk them into negative postures against Trump. Every day, folks, every president faces Chinese influence efforts. And they also tried to influence key media influencers. Yep, story of my life as I headed counterintelligence for the FBI, Chinese influence campaigns. Does that translate to changing how we do business in elections? Does that mean it changed the outcome of an election? There was nothing, zero, nada tonight about the so what question. What happened to all of these efforts, and did it make a difference in the election? Let me keep going. He's got a CIA report on his desk. He did, in very typical fashion, folks, he did start meandering and mumbling and grammatically incorrect sentences that caused me to not grasp some things that he was saying. So, for example, he said, the name of the person who did this, what? The name of a person in the intelligence community who covered this up is, quote, under review. I don't know what that means. I don't know if they're investigating this person. I don't know if he's specifically referring to somebody we already know is under investigation from prior administrations. I don't know. This was interesting. We've heard this before, folks, right? The stale bread. The PRC tried to manufacture fake voter ballots. We've heard this before, right? Wasn't there something even in Arizona about bamboo paper or something, or some paper being discovered that was kind of unique to China? We'll have to dig into that, but here it comes again with the idea of the PRC trying to manufacture ballots, and he seems even angry. This is a tactical mistake, I think. He says this was kept out of my briefings, and he was quick to say, because we've all heard reports that he doesn't read his briefings, and I get those briefings. I get those briefings, but it was kept out. So again, why do I say this is a tactical mistake? This repeated sense of Trump as victim of his own handpicked intelligence community leadership, I think is a tactical mistake and makes him weak. Officials have apparently confessed in interviews now. We'll believe this when we see it, that they did deliberately keep this cover up and this information about the PRC away from Trump. He referred to someone that I thought was in the CIA, and then they said he said they have an FBI official, quote unquote, who similarly said something like, "I'm running a shadow government," in reference to this cover up that's going on. More on the cover up. We've already heard about this, that Kash Patel had claimed pretty early on that there were burn bags found in the basement of FBI headquarters. Folks, I've been there and done that. I can tell you, in the days of paper, yeah, the burn bags, and literally, if you're saying, what's a burn bag, Frank? It's a big paper bag that's filled with classified material that needs to get burned and incinerated. And yes, they do stack up in the hallway in the basement. Yeah, they do. But they found burn bags. Okay, I could have told you where the burn bags were. But here's what he's saying. He's saying that they're filled with evidence, not further described, of this cover-up and the Chinese influence and interference with the election. He invoked Barack Obama's name here and implied that Obama wanted those bags burned, but they were never burned. And then he said, but it wasn't, it was by gross incompetence that they weren't burned. Okay. Okay, so you've discovered the burn bag salvation here. He's asking the intelligence community to find out why this was covered up, and he wants people charged with crimes or fired. Okay, we're gonna see a witch hunt, folks, and I'll go into that in a second. Okay. Next, Americans were lied to about the integrity of their voting system. He referred back to Chris Krebs, who was saying, remember Chris Krebs saying this was the most secure election in history? Boy, he can't let that go. Trump cannot let that statement go. So we heard it again tonight. He's very angry about that, and he's working hard to undo that. He's going to publish all these reports. Here's the report that he really got wound up on. Quote, we judge U.S. We judge the U.S. Was adversaries. Here we go. We judge U.S. adversaries, Iran, Russia, China, and North Korea, have the capability to compromise voting infrastructure. Folks, you've heard that from me a million times. That's nothing new under the sun. Yet, yes, Iran, Russia, China, North Korea have the capability to compromise voting infrastructure. And so does the United States. I still ask the question, so what? So what? Oh, my Lord. Is that going to lead us to some major changes in how we vote? The fact that other countries have capabilities? He says the CIA knew of a plot, and this is where he goes off in Trump lingo, to quote, I kid you not, to quote, do a big number of Maduro to digitally rig their own election. So what he's saying is that the CIA knows that Maduro's government was trying to digitally rig the Venezuelan election. I thought he was going to say for a minute that Venezuela tried to rig our election, but he didn't go there. He just said, and this is, I'm sorry that I seem to be finding humor in this, but I am, because his next thing is, so, think about the logic flow. The CIA knows Maduro tried to digitally rig his own election in Venezuela. Okay, I got it. Next sentence. Therefore, we must make changes to our own election system. I'm sorry, what? What? But that's what he said, folks. Number 4, FBI files detail large-scale voter fraud in Michigan, and specifically as part of a Get Out the Vote registration organization that he claims was rife with fraud. And he claims that now they have confessions from people who admitted they signed up other people to vote, who don't exist, people who don't exist. They gave gift cards to registrants, which he called pay to play. Boy, that's what we need, is a lecture from President Trump on paying to play, don't we? Yeah, look, some of that could be a crime. It would be a crime. Let's charge those people. Do I believe it? I'll believe it when I see it. He claims further about that Michigan organization that Biden knew it, President Joe Biden knew it, and he had the case killed. I hope we'll be hearing from President Biden about that. He's asked the FBI to investigate this. Now, isn't that interesting? You just told us the FBI gave you this, and now you're asking the FBI to investigate it. I'm sorry. Please explain. This was the big one that had the most numbers attached to it, the thing we can sink our teeth into. And this was his last of 5 things. 278,000 non-citizens and dead people are registered to vote. And he said, where's he getting that from? Well, from the red states who voluntarily gave the White House the demanded voter registration data. And of course, he's really upset that Democrat states refused to provide it. So he pointed out these numbers are likely much higher because we don't have the Democratic state records, but 278,000 non-citizens and dead people are registered to vote. That's a lot of people. And we'll stand by for any evidence of that. Do not hold your breath on that. And then let me wrap, and then we'll talk about what might happen next here, folks. He's really pissed at California. As he started to wrap up, he went at California for taking a month to count their votes. Says, we just found out who won in California, and third world countries don't even do it that poorly. He's very upset about how long it took to vote. And yeah, I think we all are like, okay, that's how we know that's California. That's how they do it. Do you have evidence of fraud or not? Bring it. Bring it. But he did not ever mention fraud that I could hear in California. He's just upset with how long it takes. It drives him nuts. He attacked the media. This is important because I have some predictions on where we're going. And he attacked NBC and ABC, who did not air. And by the way, I don't think CNN covered it, but he didn't blast CNN tonight because the merger's happening, right? And his guys are going to control CNN, so he kind of laid off of them. But CNN, as far as I know, did not show it tonight. NBC, ABC are part of the cover-up, folks. They're part of a plot to protect the radical left, and that we should have their licenses revoked. I think he's going to try really hard, right? They're already going through the affiliates, the local affiliates for that. He ends by saying we'll notify the states involved in the hacking of their voter records by China. The DHS Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen will hold briefings for states and for Congress, and they'll notify the states of all the non-citizens and dead people on their registers. He ended with the big theme of the night. What was this all for tonight? At least tonight, and we'll talk about the future. We must pass. Congress must pass the Save America Act, and he downplayed what that means. So when people hear this on Fox News, which is sadly where I had to watch it because nobody else was showing it that I could tell, when his core followers hear that, right? Here's what he said about the Save America Act. We're just asking you for a photo ID. We're just asking you if you're a U.S. citizen. What's wrong with that, right? And of course, he doesn't get into the nitty-gritty details of that. Oh, you need a certified birth certificate? Oh, you need a passport? Oh, it costs $200 to get a passport? I don't have one. I can't find my certified birth certificate. How long does it take for me to get one? Oh, I'm a woman who took on my husband's name when I got married. And so my birth certificate and passport, if I even have one, don't reflect my name, my current name. He doesn't get into that, folks. And he implies, by the way, that nobody requires you to show an ID when you go to vote. I'm old, and I've showed my photo ID every time I've gotten to vote. I don't know what he's talking about, but it's going to get some in his base wound up. All right, I want to talk about what might happen next. And first of all, where did this come from? It's been coming for a long time, folks. Sean, let's put up some of the older comments and themes that Trump has already given us as clues. So one here is back when I believe he told Reuters in an interview, when you think of it, we shouldn't even have an election. That was a couple of years ago, folks. when he said that. And now here we are again with him living out his fantasy of we don't even need an election. He's also said, and we're going to get into this. He's also said essentially, I have powers that allow me to do anything I want, powers that most people don't even know about. The New York Times headline back in 2020, Trump has emergency powers we aren't allowed to know about. And you know what, folks? That part he's not making up. And what we're looking at here is a plan put together by a guy named John Solomon, a far-right media personality who has been hired specifically, according to all reports, including MS Now and others, he's been hired and brought on specifically to help this declassification. Yeah, there it is. Election denial activists briefed at White House. That's part of the team that's been brought in, even though they were interviewed. They were brought in today for a briefing on this speech tonight. And the ones who were interviewed, even though they signed an NDA, there were folks who actually talked anonymously to the media, and even they came out with scratching their heads, going, "I don't know what he's doing, but it's something to do with integrity of the election." And that I think that's hysterical. Number one, they came out and told reporters, "We signed an NDA, we're sworn to secrecy," and then they proceeded to tell the reporters what went on in the meeting, and they said, "We're not sure what he's doing." But we know John Solomon and Bill Pulte, the DNI. If you say, where did he pull all of these classified reports from, allegedly? Well, it's your mortgage guy, Bill Pulte, who went into DNI as acting. And we've talked about this. He had a purpose, and his purpose has been fulfilled. He has produced, blown the dust off of old, already reviewed and debunked files, and he's handed them to Trump. And it sounds to me like he was ordered to do that. Somebody whispered in Trump's ear, "Hey, there's some good old stuff that can help resurrect this." And we also knew that China was probably going to be the bad guy here. And all right, let's refresh some things. What do we already know from credible intelligence community reporting? We know that Russia was found to have interfered in the Trump election, and we know it through the Bob Mueller special counsel inquiry. He indicted 12 Russian intelligence officers and 12 Russian citizens, oligarchs, part of a propaganda farm. GRU intelligence officers were indicted for hacking into Democratic emails. We know that the Republican-controlled Senate Intelligence Committee at the time issued a blistering report saying that Putin was trying to help Trump. So when we hear tonight that Russia has capabilities and China has capabilities, yeah, they have capabilities. They've been proven to help Trump with their capabilities. And who was a vice chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee who issued that report and signed off on it? Marco Rubio, folks. Yeah. The Intelligence Committee also found that China considered messing with our elections and decided against it, except for perhaps the influence campaigns that I'm referring to, right? Okay. Reports absolutely debunking the Iran, China, Russia thing in terms of actually affecting the outcome of the election. That's the question you have to keep asking. Where's the proof? So what? What happened? And why does this contradict all known reporting? Sue Hanger is in our message box. Married twice. I had to get 2 certified marriage licenses, even to get my certified birth certificate. Ladies, keep your maiden name if you marry. We may see a change in behavior, perhaps, because of this. Okay. I got report after report, all debunking what Trump said tonight from the prior intelligence community. But listen, you see what he kind of masterfully did, even though it showed tremendous weakness, that he was part of victimization here. So we've got all these reports from the IC saying none of this is true. But what has he told us tonight? That was all part of a cover-up, folks. So don't believe what you already know. Believe what I'm telling you tonight. That's what he's done here. So, I'm a victim. I've not, even my own people didn't share this with me. So you folks out there on the news who are going to say, all of this has been debunked, all of these reports say you're full of it. And he's going to go, yeah, I thought so too. But I was lied to also. Very interesting, right? So he chose to look like a weak leader with his people covering stuff up for him. And he did that to say, yeah, because all those reports now have to be discounted. You can only believe me and my current people now, like the mortgage guy, Bill Pulte. Thank God I put the mortgage guy at DNI, right? That's what we're going to hear. Okay, we were looking for the word foreign tonight, and I'll tell you why. We're going to get to the scary part here, folks. Because that's what I got paid to do for 25 years, is think of worst case scenarios and play them out. And I can tell you right now, in states around the country, secretaries of state and attorneys general, and even today, reporting today that Democrats in Congress, upwards of 20 Democrats were in a tabletop exercise today and have been working through upwards of 100 scenarios in anticipation of tonight's speech as to how to respond to various possibilities of what Trump can throw at us between now and November. So people are working on this problem. But one of the things that is still a black box mystery, and where I'm concerned this may be going, and why I say tonight was the setting of the table for potential extreme action down the road, way beyond calling for passing the Save America Act. No kidding. We know you want Save America Act passed. We know that. And we know it's in trouble. So what is Trump going to do if he can't get this thing passed? There's something that a number of us have been pointing to, and we need to get smart on it, but it's hard to get smart on something that's highly classified. And that is something called Presidential Emergency Action Documents, or PEDS. PEDS. And if you want to check it out, the Brennan Center for Justice has done a great primer on PEDS. So here they are. Look, I'm gonna just give you an idea of where this goes. PEDS are executive orders, proclamations, and messages to Congress that are prepared in anticipation of a range of emergency scenarios so that they are ready to sign and put into effect the moment one of those scenarios comes to pass. They were first created during the Eisenhower administration as part of a continuity of government plan in case of a nuclear attack. Okay, so you say, Frank, are you telling me that locked in a safe in the White House for decades has been a number of PEDS, Presidential Emergency Action Documents, created by various presidents through the years that they can pull out of their safe and sign in the event of certain scenarios that might be anticipated? Yes. And you might say, are they all very old and you need to blow dust off them? Or are there new ones that presidents can prepare as they anticipate new scenarios? Yes. What the Brennan Center tells us. And the thing is, you might say, well, if these are super secret and they've never seen the light of day, how can the Brennan Center tell us about these things? Well, when you study other documents that have been declassified through Freedom of Information Act, you get glimpses, often accidental. You find what they referred to a PED. They talked about a presidential emergency action document. They made a reference, and God bless the Brennan Center and other organizations that have gone through and culled all declassified information for evidence of any discussion of a PED. And what they've come up with is they know that there were 56 PEDs in effect as of 2017, which is up from 48 a couple of decades earlier. So I've heard some commentators even today say, well, it's these old documents that address nuclear war and what to do and all of this, but they're old, they're Eisenhower. No. Is it possible that Donald Trump has authored new PEDs? Absolutely. You might be asking, what are some things that we have discovered through other documents that PEDs can do? What's sitting in the safe at the White House that a president could sign? Here we go. They've authorized detention of alien enemies and other dangerous persons within the United States. Think of the Japanese internment camps. They've suspended the writ of habeas corpus by presidential order. That means the way we lawfully detain people, usually with cause, that could be suspended. That's one of the documents sitting in there through the years. Provided for various forms of martial law, like no law. Like we could possibly kill you and use lethal force when it might not be justified. Issue a general warrant permitting search and seizure of persons and property. A general warrant, folks, meaning, it applies generally to whoever I say it applies to. Established military areas, such as those created during World War II. Suspended production of the Federal Register, declared a state of war, and authorized, here we go, with the reference today to ABC and NBC, right? And they should lose their license. He left CNN off because his buddy's going to be in charge. There's a PED that authorizes censorship of the news media. Yeah. Is that coming? I told you the FCC chair is already trying to pull ABC's affiliate licenses in your towns and cities around the country. What else do I think this is tied to? Because this isn't happening in isolation. It's a whole of government strategy, folks. What happened today, even, that could tie to this speech tonight? Secretary of State and National Security Advisor Marco Rubio today held a conference with representatives from 66 countries on the topic of far-left terrorism. Far-left terrorism. With 66 countries today, folks, and he gave a passionate speech. Check it out. And in attendance with him was Secretary of Treasury Bessent and our good friend Steve Miller. Oh, you'll love what Steve Miller said about far-left terrorism. At least Rubio referred to violent far-left terrorism, kind of. Steve Miller didn't need the word violent in front of far-left. He said, he referred to all leftists. Here we go. The leftist, this is Steve Miller. The leftist is fundamentally motivated by envy, by hatred, by jealousy, Miller said. The leftist looks at what is beautiful and what is good and what is natural and is filled with envy and hatred. He goes on to rail against the left. No concept of violence or terror, just says all leftists are terrorists. How does this match up with tonight and the strategy? Let's fold in a National Security Presidential Memo number 7 that was signed by the president while Pam Bondi was his AG. And he ordered Bondi to go after Antifa, and he declared Antifa a designated domestic terror organization. What happened today? Marco Rubio made the next move to declare Antifa, whatever that is, far left people, international terrorists. He asked those 66 nations to produce evidence and help him go after international far left terror. The minute we switch tonight, so we've got the president tonight invoking China as a threat to our election. We have the Secretary of State and National Security Advisor in front of 66 nations today saying the far left is an international threat. And now we open the toolbox available to the FBI and the intelligence community and the DNI, led by the DNI, to say that we are facing a grave foreign-sponsored threat, both from terrorists that we call far leftists and from foreign countries who have capabilities. Yeah, no kidding. Where could this go, folks? It's not good. We could find ourselves with a PED, Presidential Emergency Action Directive, or document, that says anybody like me, who is, the NSPM talks about anti-capitalist, anti-fascist. I personally don't know anyone who isn't anti-fascist. But yet that's getting wrapped up into terrorist. If that's true, and that opens the toolbox of the FBI and the CIA and the entire intel community, then folks, we're in. Buckle up. We're in for a very rough ride. Am I positive about who wins? I am. And I think democracy and freedom will win the day. But here's the key, folks. Some of this is classified. It involves PEDs locked up in a safe in the White House. It involves counterterror strategies. And the president was, I think, deliberately careful tonight to not get extreme tonight. He was silly. He was not factual, with the exception of the numbers he threw out about non-citizens and dead people. And we'll see if that's true. Why do I think that? I think it's too early for him to come out with what he really wants to do. I think it would involve all kinds of preemptive court challenges. And this is going to get tricky, right? Because courts generally need a conflict in front of them, a live action conflict to decide. Judges don't like you coming to them and saying, I think the president's fixing to get ready to mess with our elections, and I want you to enjoin him. But that's exactly what we need. We need the president to be enjoined from taking control federally of the election. I think he's going to try it. I think he's going to try to dictate. If he doesn't get the SAVE Act passed, he's going to try to dictate by executive order or PED that you gotta show your birth certificate or your passport to register to vote, and then again to vote. And then we're going to run to the courts. And are we going to run to the courts in individual states? Are we going to do a class action lawsuit? Is a judge going to say, I got to wait until he actually signs the executive order? All of this is being worked on right now. That's the good news, folks. And that's why I do maintain optimism. And I think a lot of people outside of the Fox News chamber are going to say, I didn't hear a lot that I haven't heard before. And it sounds to me like the fact that Maduro tried to fix his election in Venezuela has nothing to do with needing to change how we vote here. I think smart people are going to say that. And I know smart people are working on this. And I maintain that kind of optimism. But buckle up, because I think tonight was just a sneak preview of what he's going to try to pull. Let's not let him do it. Thanks for joining. Oh, we've got a question. What about states that only vote by mail? He was saying no one should vote by mail. Yeah, he hates voting by mail, except, of course, when he votes by mail in Palm Beach County, which he has done. Look, the bottom line is that mail-in balloting helps encourage and increase the number of people who vote, right? A democracy should want to do that. We should want to encourage lawfully registered voters to vote in any way they can. And he knows very well that the majority of mail-in votes come allegedly, from reports I've seen, from Democrats. He knows that. And that's because, you know what? They work for a living, and they often can't show up. They work, some people work 2 jobs. So yeah, they get it done by mail. They don't have all day to wait in a 4-hour line. He knows that. and he's going to try to suppress the vote. We're not going to let him do it. That's the summary tonight. Thanks for hanging in there with me. I'm not worried about this winning. I'm worried about the ride. But I know folks like you will help get us a victory. Thanks for joining. Have a good night.